Hi, my name is Brian Lepak. I am the chair of the Law Practice Management and Technology section of the Beverly Hills Bar Association. I want to welcome you to our presentation on best digital practices for enhancing client relationships. Before we begin the program and I turn it over to Mary and Richard, I want to give you some reminders. There's going to be a survey at the end of this program, and we ask you that you please fill out that survey. With regard to certificates of attendance, those will be emailed to you within about a week. As you see on the screen now, there's information about becoming a member of the BHBA, and we would encourage you to become a member if you're not already a member. There are many different ways in which you can become a member, or the price range for what kind of services you want from BHBA. It's also free to law students if you know some law students, and for new attorneys in their first 3 years of practice. I'd also want to remind you that if you need a virtual office, BHBA offers those services as well. You can see more information about that on the website. And finally, the network is a group of people who get together for networking. It's a great way of meeting people and building your practice. If you're interested, again, check out the website to get more information about that. And with that, I turn the program over to Mary and Richard. Thank you, guys.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming this afternoon. Richard and I are looking forward to sharing some ideas with you. My name is Mary Neitlich, and I'm the principal of EM Consulting. Our business is about finding the sweet spot for business development for you and creating sustained ongoing activities that put you face to face with your clients and coveted non-clients. In order to do that, we always start with making sure we've got your differentiation down, your brand, and apply it to everything from your website to social media, because all of it works together. And today we're going to talk about some of those issues and how different types of content marketing using the digital emphasis can really assist in enhancing relationships and driving new revenue. Richard.
Yeah, I'm Richard Clayman. My company is Cloudwalker Videoworks. I've had this company for 14 years after 25 years in Hollywood as a writer and director and producer and actor and production executive, pretty much above the line all the time. So I bring a filmmaker's eye to the value of film for people involved in service and product businesses as well. Primarily, it serves two functions, as you'll see today. One is to serve as a first meeting for people who are checking you out on the web, so that by the time they contact you for real, they've already hired you. And it happens to my clients all the time. And the second is through the animated work that I do to take complex issues and explain them simply in terms of their value proposition to your clients.
Okay, so with that, we're going to share some ideas. Richard and I have been professional colleagues for about 8 or 9 years, work with a myriad of clients. Richard even did the videos on my website as well to express your brand, express your differentiation, and many other uses. So let's just take a quick look at a couple of points. And this should be going to full screen. There we go. In order to enhance those client relationships and working with the concept of digital relationships and digital content, we're going to look at a variety of concepts and ideas. The first thing that I wanted to share with you today, that in the 25 years I've been practicing, we know that right now our firm's livelihood depends on what we're doing. This pandemic has been going on for 5 months now, and we've all really adjusted and moved forward. But one of the things we know is that this is not the time to be pitching to our clients, but it is the time to check in. Many of us have already done that. You've called clients, maybe emailed, maybe had a second call. How else can you enhance those relationships? Well, it's critical during times like this that we do so. One of the things that's happened, though, is we have to be careful about that content and how we're sharing it. Content fatigue is real. I think it all began, if most of us remember, back in April when I think 90% of the law firms had a COVID resource center and had that head banner with those red virus pictures across the top. And we quickly sort of got over that and got into a lot of Zoom meetings, webinars, and content. The idea behind all of this is that to avoid the fatigue, it's to vary the content and not to overload. And that really is the critical issue here. So moving forward, I love this particular quote, especially because it was said during the pandemic by the Orange County Bar Association litigation section. So they know, and we know, that this is a time to enhance your visibility and do that through different digital marketing as well as other online content ways to communicate. Back in 2008, for those of us who were practicing back then, and I think many of us were, it was the firms that took advantage of staying in front of those clients and being helpful to those clients, not pushing for work, but just being there, being part of a trusted advisor scenario, came back the quickest and did the best. These are the words that have come out over the past 5 months, and I would caution us to pivot away from these words when you're communicating, because they have been so overused. Just like we no longer probably use many pictures of law firm books or scales of justice on websites, courtroom steps, because it's been done so much. So maybe thinking about other alternatives. This is not the time not to connect with clients. We just have to adapt to their issues, their environment, their business and vertical industries. And this is the time to take advantage of that and look at the different ways we can communicate. These days, content should be snack size. It really involves small pieces, could be a paragraph, it even could be a sentence that's linking to an article for an industry or a trade journal that you feel is really important. A lot of times attorneys will say to me, I just don't have time to write all this content. Well, yeah, because it's not a 1,500 word article or a 2,000 word article. It can be a few paragraphs. The idea is, what is that nugget? Make them small and communicate. Gone are the days when we send out those 16-page newsletters that cover every practice area in the world. So that no one has patience for that. And if you're sending that to me and it has something about tax, but I'm human resources, I'm not so interested. So it's being focused. I know, Richard, you wish I could give you that sandwich.
I want that sandwich so much. I can't even tell you.
I wouldn't be able to eat for a month.
Well, it might take me a month to eat it, but it would be great.
So in looking at this whole idea of content marketing, about this being snack size, we all have the attention span of a gnat. We're just bombarded. And so learning how to produce small pieces is really, really helpful. It all is a matter of being focused on what the client needs. So you might have various channels for various content. If you're serve manufacturers and you serve people in hospitality, you have different content specifically for that. One of the nice ways to communicate with your clients, referral sources, and even potential clients now is to find out what's going on in their industry. Just give them a call. Once you know what their needs are, it's easier to share some insights. And from a site engine optimization period, or being found on the website, SEO, if you post frequently, that's how you get found. About 8 years ago, you probably all remember that the companies and firms and individuals that were coming up at the top were those people that were paying for pay for play for a Google search, right? It doesn't work like that anymore. It's all about posting content. And there are SEO specialists that can take your website and every month reconnect them to the search engines and create content for you in Google Ads. That's a very high level. A simple level, though, is to make sure you have keywords on your website, organic SEO. I can share more with that offline with if anyone needs that information, or you can Google that. But you also want to understand that posting frequently is the name of the game. Posting once a month or once every 3 months is really not going to do much in terms of people finding you. You have to find that balance for yourself. Many of us are not looking to be found. For example, if I put in litigation attorney Beverly Hills, we're probably not thinking that, you know, our firm's going to come up first. Somebody's coming up first, but that's the firm with the most content and who's been doing it for the longest by changing the content. So since most of us aren't looking for that, what we want is if people do look us up on Google, that we show up. I actually have had clients, you type in their name, they don't even show up. So you want to make sure that you get your website at least a little bit organically SEO'd and that you're posting some content. Also, one of the first things that typically pops up when you search online, if you typed in my name, Mary Neitlich, up would come my LinkedIn information first in some of my posts. And why is that? It's because LinkedIn is the second largest search engine in the world with 675 million members. So it kind of boosts you up there. So it's something to be thinking about. And whatever content you make, the best thing you can do is to repurpose or reuse it. So if you decide, yeah, I'm going to put a blog on my website and I'm going to write this 2-paragraph story about some changes about labor and employment, I then want to take that and either put the link to that blog post on LinkedIn or copy and paste it and turn it into a LinkedIn article. And there it is. If I put the link to the blog post on my website, if people see an interesting image with that and they want to learn about that article and they click on it, you just pull them to your website. So everything you do, you should repurpose. If you're lucky enough to be doing a podcast, you're posting it on social media and maybe on your bio page on your website as well. So if we know that LinkedIn is the #1 business social media platform, why do we still really need to use it? It's part of digital branding. It's part of what Richard and I are talking about today. So sometimes that's content, sometimes it's videos, and it can be e-blasts, and it can also be the opportunity for you to put links to different things that you've done in different articles. But if you're not on LinkedIn, you're not going to be digitally found as well. And it's useful for the videos you make, as I said, as well as if you put them on your website. When you do both, you get more traction from that. One of the nice things about LinkedIn is to open doors to new connections. So let's say that you said, you know, there's 3 or 4 people that I've met at this trade show or I've met over the years, but I can't really think of a reason or why to call them. Well, let's use the hospitality industry, for example. Let's say that that is your practice area, your main area. If you call up these clients, you can call them and say, hey, you know, I'm writing a short article that I'm going to post on LinkedIn or a blog for my website. I'd like to get your take on this. It's a great way for you to reach out through LinkedIn. If you type in their name in the search bar, you can connect with them if you're not. And in that connection message, you can actually say that. I'd like to sort of talk to you for 10 minutes and get a quote. It's a great way to find potential targets. You can search by hashtags or manufacturing or different industries, and people that you're connected with will pop up, and some second connections will as well. You want to use LinkedIn to enhance relationships. So if you post and you're not used to posting, you actually can put the @ sign and then @Richard Clayman, and then when I hit post, Richard Clayman, the @ sign disappears and his name turns blue. Can you imagine how powerful that is if you tag someone in a post that you want to connect with, but you haven't for a while? Maybe it's that article that you wrote, and they get an email that says, Mary Neitlich just posted, talked about you on LinkedIn or made a comment on your post. It's very, very valuable, and it's free. This is the point where a lot of attorneys just say, I just don't have time. I can't get on LinkedIn 4 or 5 times a week and do this. And I'm going to say, finally now, for the first time in 25 years, I'm hoping you do. Hopefully we're not driving to the office. We're not driving to so many client meetings. So maybe you have 15 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week to enhance relationships, add contacts, add videos, add every content constantly so that your people you're communicating with hear from you. If you just post once in a while, it's really hard to think anyone's necessarily going to see those posts. It's also okay to repost the same information the next day. Sometimes I'll change the picture to make it a little more interesting, but because some people may not be on every day, and it's really an okay strategy to do that. The other thing you should know is that LinkedIn is the first place that, according to Forbes, 72% of all people, when they hear about you, someone talks about you, they see you at a meeting, they want to check you out, the first thing they're going to do is go to your LinkedIn profile. So if your profile is not optimized or completely filled out, it's not going to appear well. When this is over, the bar, Beverly Hills Bar, is going to send you 3 pieces of content from me. The first one is how to optimize your profile. And that's your home screen with your picture. And hopefully you don't have that turquoise blue image behind you with the white lines. And if you do, think about an image you can import. The second piece is about content marketing. So sort of what's in there, what's involved in there. And the third piece is if you actually want to drive revenue through LinkedIn, some tips for doing that. It just builds your credibility, and that's, you know, all I guess I need to say about that. We know clients are looking for content, and according to American Lawyer Media, in the first 4 months of the pandemic, more content was created than in any 4-month period ever. So we might be thinking, well, yeah, okay, that's a lot of content. People are tired of it. Well, they're tired of it if it's redundant or you're repeating the same information, or maybe there's a piece of cutting edge news in your industry or a practice area, but you wait a week to send it out and 10 other law firms have done so. So sort of find out what those clients are looking for. The only time you would post news is if something really pressing just happened that's going to impact these companies, maybe labor and employment issues or tax issues, and then you want to be the first out with that news. So the summary of all this is supply fresh information and be forward thinking about what these companies need and vary your channels. And meaning not just LinkedIn or not just eBlast. The first couple of months, law firms were sending out maybe too many eBlasts. I got 14 in 1 week from one law firm. That was maybe a little over the top. So be careful about the fatigue. Webinar fatigue is real. If you feel like, oh, my clients have been to so many webinars, maybe you can send them a half a sheet with some bullet points that will help them understand what they need to know. So vary that content. Videos are so important. They get 5 times the engagement on a LinkedIn post or on a website. So more people are just attracted to the movement. Also, if you're not having a video, you want to have an image with those posts that are interesting. Maybe not people sitting around the conference table talking, but something that's in there that's a really interesting, unusual, different image so people will be attracted and want to take a look. Let's take a look at this one attorney that Richard, he's a client of Richard's and mine. I got him to be a contributor to the Kiplinger Wealth Creation online column. And so when the pandemic first started, he was getting an inordinate amount of requests about estate planning and asset protection. So quickly penned an article, which got published on Kiplinger, was repurposed on his website, was repurposed on all of his social media channels. Another thing or another channel that he used was community involvement. So Jeff Verdun and a group of other supporters started something they call Pizza Friday 3 weeks ago. And every Friday they pick a variety of cities and they deliver pizza to the law enforcement. And they've gotten a lot of sponsors, they've gotten a lot of good feedback and a lot of credibility on their websites and their social media and e-blasting as well. So whatever it is, again, say you're in the hospitality industry and one of your clients supports Feed the Homeless. Maybe you can sort of get involved in that organization, post about it at least, and sort of tag your clients in some of those posts, maybe interview them so that your clients see you're involved in the same types of community activity. People seem to feel good about this. The posts where you're just taking pictures of people at a meeting, not really content, right? Occasionally those are okay, but this type of thing really grabs attention. And then Jeff uses this a lot. He advertises in the Orange County Business Journal. These were side-by-side pieces where there's a content piece and then a full page article and an ad face-to-face. So maybe if you have a trade journal or an organization, you might want to consider that as opposed to the quarter page ad to maybe once in a while do a full page or 2 consecutive pages where you're grabbing attention. And then the last channel Richard and I wanted to show you about today is this is a page from Jeff's website. And this is one of the videos that Richard has done for him. And so it's embedded onto the practice area page about asset protection trusts. And Richard's going to explain that as I pull up the video live.
It's funny you use the word explain. These are called, in the world of videographers, explainer videos. And I don't think anybody really wants things explained to them. What they really want to do is find out the value proposition for them. So I call them value proposition videos. And when you're making an animated video, when you're making something trying to make a complex idea simple, it's very important that you think in those terms, that the foundation of the building is that.
Are you confident you'll never be sued? According to the New York Times, that risk can loom large if, say, you are wealthy, a doctor, or have your own business. By the time you're slapped with a lawsuit, it's likely too late to protect yourself, so you need to act ahead of time. So, how to do that? By adding the forming of a Foreign Asset Protection Trust, or APT, to your estate plan. Insurance for your wealth. Here's how a foreign APT can foster an environment for an early and more favorable settlement. Our law firm settled a $58 million judgment for $7 million because the plaintiff had doubts about being able to enforce the judgment. Protected a client's portfolio assets from being taken by a judgment creditor in an almost $70 million judgment by creating the incentives for a very modest settlement. A $34 million malpractice lawsuit settled for less than $1 million. A $5 million default judgment settled for $125,000. A $75 million personal loan guarantee from a major international bank settled for $5 million. Each of these individuals would have been wiped out had they not had an asset protection plan in place. Given how litigious our society has become, think about how your life would be changed if a lawsuit took all or most of what you have, and that you could have avoided this result with an APT. Liability insurance policies provide limited coverage and not for all types of risks. Have a revocable living trust and believe it will protect you? You couldn't be more wrong. A lawsuit creditor will go through your living trust like a hot knife through butter. So, if you want maximum protection with no exception creditors and U.S. judgments that are not enforceable even if you have to file bankruptcy, then a foreign-based APT is for you, and it's surprisingly simple. Place a portion of your valued assets into a properly created APT when you have no pending, threatened, or expected claims. Should someone later threaten to sue you, the firewall protection provided by the APT removes the financial incentive, making you an unattractive target for lawsuit predators. Why? Because a judgment rendered against you is not enforceable against the trust's assets. As the Wall Street Journal states, distributions are at the discretion of a trustee who could stop payouts if there were a legal judgment against you. So, if you want the peace of mind of knowing you have done all you can to protect your wealth, contact us to see if a Foreign Asset Protection Trust makes good sense for you.
Richard, do you have any comments on that before I jump back into?
Well, first of all, it normally runs much more smoothly than that. I don't know if everybody was getting the frames that were freezing throughout it. I did over here, but it is what's happened for Jeff and what's worked well for him is that he is able to sit down clients, his high net worth clients, and show these videos to them and sell them a trust, anywhere from $40,000 to $100,000 typically. I'm working on the 12th for him right now because they've worked. He says he's made over $1 million on them, and he has a very small firm. So it's just one more arm, as Mary has mentioned, in how you market yourself effectively. How you reach out to the world and connect with people by giving them what they need at the moment they need it. A big part of my company is about where are people sitting. When I came out of TV, when I came out of network TV, and I came out of film, and I came out of stage, each audience has its own requirements. In this world, I needed to begin to understand what that audience was looking for. And that started with, where are they sitting? What are they doing? What have they gone to this website or to have searched on YouTube or LinkedIn for this particular company? What is their need? Well, their needs primarily are not to know what my client does, because they didn't get there by accident. They know what my client does. They're searching for somebody to do that for them. Of course, it needs to engender trust in that, but a big part of that, and the major part, is who my client is. And I think it's very important in everything you do on video that you understand that people aren't finding your video. They're not finding you by accident. They have a need. That's why they're there. And really what they're doing is meeting you for the first time. And it's very important in many ways that that meeting is right. Mary, did you have more to talk about before?
We have a few more slides, and then Rich is going to talk a little bit more about different types of videos. So, so just getting back to the general concept of raising your visibility and SEO through content and website development, I've emphasized the frequent updates. I've also emphasized the idea that linking from your website to social media and vice versa can really raise your SEO, and that to post these in multiple places. It's very important on your website that you think about when the last time you updated your website. Typically, websites should be updated every 2 to 3 years because the technology has changed. And also, websites for the past 4 or 5 years are automatically made so that they show on every mobile device, every computer, whether it's a phone or a tablet. And so the font is large, people can read it. If you have an older website, it's probably not that readable on a phone, and a lot of times the images are not lined up. And so you might want to be thinking about that, because that's another way to raise your SEO, is to get the latest in the technology. And the prices to have these done have come way down. So it is this powerhouse combination to use content with your website and social media, and that your search engine results will increase if you start to post more and more. And again, that to think about replacing that website if it hasn't been done for a while. If you rebrand and your website sort of like more contemporary and you just need to change some copy or a couple of images or content, that can be done too. But you just want to make sure you're giving fresh information and content. You want to be that superhero that understands your client's issues and concerns. Pick up the phone, and this to me is the biggest business development piece of this, and call your clients and say, what's your business problem and how can I as a trusted advisor help you? Maybe you're putting skin in the game and you're not necessarily billing for this time. Maybe this is a time to help them do some processing and figure out what those issues are. And as a trusted advisor, I can help you in certain ways in business. So as you prepare your firm's roadmap, one of the first things I want to say is, have you looked at your marketing budget or plan, if you have one? Right after the pandemic started, I got an email for a live in-person presentation when there weren't any. And this particular firm never thought to take off their auto emails that were going out. So you want to be careful about things like that. What's expendable? Should you reallocate your funds? This might be a time to think about that. And consider the short bullet points, the best practices that you can send to clients, as opposed to necessarily those longer pieces, and to save on the content fatigue. Obviously, it's our job as service providers to demonstrate empathy and to really show that you understand what they're going through and have some positivity about it. You all have experts. If you're a family law attorney and you find out that some of this is going into civil court, you might have to get in a real estate expert or a financial expert to do analysis. Let your clients know that you're that resource, that you can help them. So my final thought to you is that your clients want to hear from you, and they want to be part of be their trusted advisor. And you should be speaking to the client issues and pain points, varying those channels of how you're communicating. Something people don't think about often is, when is the last time you reviewed your bio on your website? You might want to take a look and make sure. That's the first place, pretty much, if people get to the website. But remember, I had said to you before that a lot of people, according to Forbes, 72% will go to your LinkedIn profile first. So if it's not complete, they're wondering. And a little pro tip, you have to have a little bit different content on your website bio and your LinkedIn profile bio, because the search engines won't pick it up otherwise. So just change the ordering and some words around, not the messaging necessarily. You want to get clients, increase your ability to connect with people by, you can even search them out. Someone you haven't spoken to for a while and you're like, I'd like to post on Stephen Smith's page, see what he's posted. Just put his name in the search bar on LinkedIn, up will pop his profile, and then you can scroll down and get to his activity and look at what he's posted and comment on it. And then, oh, he'll get an email that you were thinking about him. So that's a nice way, and it's free. And just continue, obviously, with the updates with videos. If you haven't set up Google alerts or LinkedIn alerts, where you're getting information about those particular industries, if it's manufacturing, biotech, IP, you want to do that so that you'll be first out with the news, and maybe you can use them for fresh content pieces. And then consider some community involvement in pro bono if it makes sense for your practice, and just communicate all that. And that's all I have to say. And now Richard's going to share with us the wonderful opportunities in video.
Yeah, we'll go through this fairly quickly. By the way, in the chat box, if you want to go ahead and ask some questions, go ahead, and we'll either get to them while I'm speaking or afterwards. The last few minutes we'll spend doing that. The first thing that I want to talk to everybody about, and Mary's a perfect example of it, is how you present yourself on Zoom. It is because it's become such an important world now. When you in communicating this way, it is essential that you think about certain things in how you present yourself. First of all, I'm not able to see the attendees here, but I know from going to meetings every day that there are a number of people who put up, who composite themselves. In other words, they put up the false background behind them. That is, to me, that sort of green screen, which is not done very well, is a huge distraction. At the core of almost everything I tell you in terms of how you put yourself forward on screen is that you don't change the subject. Yeah, you create a situation where people can sit forward and listen to you without being distracted by anything else. For example, the things that are in the background of me here, the things that are in the background of Mary over there, those are things that fill the background, so it feels like a full frame. It has a certain elegance to it. It has a professionalism to it, which is what you want to get across. However, it's not drawing attention to itself. No one can tell me what's on the wall behind me, I don't think. Maybe Brian could tell me that right there is a drawing of Vince Lombardi, but that's only because he's from Wisconsin. So, actually from Green Bay. But even he probably couldn't see that. When you composite, and particularly when you put up something with your company logo on it, you're drawing the eye away from you to that. That doesn't work well for you. The whole idea is for people to meet you, for people to begin to trust you and like you and feel like they know you and you're talking to them. When I was talking about looking at the new world of the audience in this sort of work as opposed to film work, I'll give you an example of it. In a feature film, you walk in and virtually no one ever looks directly into the camera. Why is that? Unless it's very stylized, they never do. Because the whole paradigm is to walk in there and be an unseen participant in a series of private moments. In other words, those actors, those characters never know you're there. I mean, you get to be part of it, and that's fun, right? And they do all sorts of things that you're right there seeing them do. In this world, it is a very intimate, very personal, one-on-one world. So when you have a meeting with somebody, you're not going to look off this way and talk to them. You're going to look at them, and you're going to talk directly at them, which leads me to talk to the lens. It's hard, but you got to train yourself to do it. Yeah, you'll look down at notes once in a while, but everybody does that. But if you talk to the picture, now you're not looking at any of us. If you talk to the lens, now you're looking at all of us. And there's a huge difference in that. That little bit makes a huge difference. And I think you probably could see it just now as I was doing it. This is nothing new, but it's like developing a muscle. It's like working out. You need to continue to remind yourself and work out and get used to doing that. I've had to do it, and I was an actor for a long time. So those sorts of ideas talking to a character as if you're looking at them when you're really cheating off, is the kind of thing we do all the time. And yet this is a very odd thing because the face is right there and there's the lens. So I'm looking into that. So I would stay away from compositing. One of the things I've seen people do is stand up when they do it and look down at people. Well, I think, body language, primal behavior is very important in my world. And if you look down on people, what do they think? They don't think you're superior. They think you think you're superior. And that's not necessarily a good place to be. So try and get on eye level and look directly at people into the lens without looking down upon them. For Mary, one of the things we worked about was, first of all, getting her away from the center of frame. There are reasons, composition reasons, why the center of frame is not valuable. What happens is you focus solely, as the audience, you focus solely on that person in the center of frame, which would sound like it's a good idea, but you lock in on it. Nothing else is available to you. You don't feel like there's a whole picture. Everything else fades away, and there's fatigue with that, and you begin to lose attention. So you'll see in virtually all good work, you'll see people either to the left or to the right of frame, which Mary is now to the right of frame. And she is, and I'm to the left of frame. And that's a very important thing to do. Another thing that I've seen a lot of is people who are here. Okay. Now, this is called headroom, and you want to minimize the headroom. You want to squeeze your head towards the top of the frame and do your best to keep it there. Sometimes if you turn away, you'll drop, but come back to where you were. And it was one of the things we worked on. Mary was just simply tilting her camera down a bit to make sure that is. And I'll write these things out and send them out to you as a separate piece so that you can have some notes to go through and check it. The last thing is lighting. Almost always overhead lights are a bad idea. They will make your forehead shine. They will take away from your face. The shadow becomes ominous, and you don't really want to have either of those things. Generally, what you want to do is light from the side and light softly. Mary is better lit than I am, and that's natural light with a shade from outside. And it is taking. You can see the light is on this side of her face, and the shadow is on this side, and yet you can see her very clearly. For me, it's a little more subtle, but it's the same idea. I have a question here. Do I think Zoom meetings, and Mary, you can answer this too, will be the way of the future, even post-COVID? Do you think COVID took the stigma out of computer interviews and working at home?
So I would quickly say I do think Zoom meetings will continue, and I think virtual will also continue. I think Zoom is going to be with us. And then somebody else just asked another question really quickly, which is it worth getting the premium on LinkedIn? And I say no, because that's really an expensive monthly thing unless you're like a recruiter where you're going to be searching and you need to have access and get to people. Most of us just communicate with our contacts, and you can communicate with your second degree. So in other words, second degree is if I'm not connected with one of Richard's connections, but we are, that person would be a second degree. Right.
So going back to I agree with Mary, by the way. I think that all this did was accelerate part of the world that will be added to our other world. There will be a lot of in-person stuff. There will be a lot of people going to the office, but there will be a lot of people who no longer have to. And there will be a lot of meetings which can take place this way and have more attendees. I'm going to show you a video in a minute that has to do with how the world may change at times for certain kinds of gatherings. But to go back to lighting last, when I talk about lighting from the side light, it can be a practical light. Just take it out of frame. Just put a lamp over to the side and see how it works, how it lights you. You don't want to be too dark on this side. Again, you don't want to look ominous. This is not a film noir. This is going to be, unless you want to look like Humphrey Bogart, in which case, be my guest. And if you get a ring light, which a lot of people have been doing, don't place it right in front of you, because that's going to bring light directly on. Take that ring light and just put it off to the side. Just make sure it's out of frame. You don't want to see it in the frame. And I have had some people who have done that, and I've had to coach them to get it out of frame. So if there are any questions, please send those out. Now, let's talk about videos. And I talked briefly about videos serving as a first meeting. In this case, the one that I'm going to show you now is a video. It's the homepage video. Normally I'll do, for a small firm, I'll do a home page, an about us page, a services page, and possibly a couple of 1-minute bio videos for attorneys' bio pages, so that you're not just looking at a photo and reading about them, but you actually meet that person. And I can't tell you the number of times I've heard people say, yeah, you know, they really think they've met you. I will say, when I first put the videos of me up on my site, I went to a meeting. I thought this would be the way it would work, but I wasn't sure. I went to a meeting in Pasadena, and I was sitting there waiting, and the president of the company came walking through a whole bunch of desks toward me with a big smile on her face. And she walked up and held out her hand and said, "It was a pleasure meeting you." We'd never met. I'd never met her in my life, but because of the video, she felt she had. So here's one that introduces a firm with which some of you may be familiar. And I'm going to go to this and share it.
At RMO, we're not just a law firm, we're a family.
Scott, Sean, and I have known each other for decades.
We're a tight-knit group. We're comfortable pushing and testing each other.
Here there are no egos, which allows us to focus on you and developing strategies to get you the best result.
We leverage our experience and our personal strengths
to make sure that we are as prepared and as knowledgeable about your matter as we can be.
So that by the time we take your case to a mediator, an arbitrator,
a judge,
or jury,
we, you, our client, and our team are completely comfortable and ready to execute on your case strategy efficiently,
strategically, and cost-effectively.
That's what you get from a law firm
whose singular focus is
getting you a resolution so you can move on with your life, because that's why you hire a lawyer, to put an end to your dispute.
At RMO, we're a warm, personal, hard-working group of people
who work tirelessly to ensure that you have the best possible experience.
And you get the best result for you, your case, and your family.
All right. Hopefully everybody saw that well. Those guys from Wisconsin are pretty good at doing this stuff. And I think Scott did very well. But you see where that will engender trust, I believe, in a client who's checking out that law firm and sees that. It is so that really, when they walk in the door, they've already hired them. They've already decided this is the client for me. Now that's a traditional one. I come out with a 4-person crew normally. The only person that gets near anybody is the makeup person. So we've actually done a couple during this, and she wears a shield and a mask. So it's still very doable if it is something that people want to do, whether it's with me or somebody else, as long as you make sure those things are covered. Now, I recently had, many of you are probably familiar with Feinberg, Mindell, Brandt & Klein, FMBK. They're a large family law firm in the Santa Monica, well, right in the border of Santa Monica and Los Angeles area. And Steve Mindell came to me. They had been hosting an event every year, which was for up-and-coming young family law attorneys. Particularly looking at youth and diversity and bringing that into their field and their practice, which was suffering from lack of that. So but this year, normally they would buy a place in the program, they would put up a graphic, and that's how they would advertise there. But this year, of course, they had to do it virtually. Well, in doing it virtually, the organizers offered them a 45-second clip to be made. Now, this was 1 week before the event actually occurred that Steve came to me. He said, "How can you do this?" Well, this is how you bob and weave in this arena, but the possibilities that are out there to do things. In this case, what I did was I wrote a script from what Steve and a couple of attorneys told me. We put 6 attorneys in the script, and then once we had it down, we set up a day where we did a half an hour each by Zoom. I directed them on Zoom. I framed them up so they were right, got them lit right in their place, right? Made sure that all of this was right. We rehearsed it, and then we had them take their phones, because it's a higher resolution image and it's not dependent on the internet connection. We had them take their phones with that 4K image, copy the frame that we had just seen, so just duplicate it wherever it was, and go ahead and record it, and then text it to us. Once we got it right, which usually was the first or second time, because it was a series of sound bites, knowing that that's what we had to do, that's how I wrote it, and then we texted those on to my editor, who's now cutting them together, and I actually did cut them together, and we had it delivered to them in 5 days, and it was a big hit. There, and I want to show it to you. So let's go ahead and share the screen and take a look at this one.
At FMBK, we believe that our industry needs to thrive and grow.
To change the face of family law attorneys.
That's why we've always been so proud of our strong summer and mentorship programs.
As a 2019 summer associate, I'm excited that FMBK will be hiring me upon completion of the bar exam.
I loved how fully and quickly I was welcomed here.
In an environment of learning, collaboration, and real professional responsibility.
Because at FMBK, we continue to appreciate and value the next generation of family law attorneys.
And have always been excited to expand real opportunities for those willing to work for them. At FMBK, we build lawyers.
All right, so you get the possibilities. That was done in 3 hours, half an hour each for each attorney, written by me. And one of the things that I do, and I think it's very important if you make any videos, is you have them written by a professional writer. Most videographers, in fact, I don't know of any, are capable of doing that. So you're going to have to go outside or find somebody who does. It starts with content. And if the content's right, and the content keeps in mind production and the practicality of doing it, then it will be done quickly, it'll be done easily, it'll be done elegantly, it'll be done professionally, and it will be very impactful. Right, Mary?
Yes, we had actually, and a couple of questions too. One was about, one question I wanted to raise was the idea of people making their own 30-second videos on an iPhone if they have a stand and they can just post them quickly on social media, their website. If it's immediate, like this just happened, we need to share this with you kind of thing. Do you have any ideas for people if they want to do that, just to get the little quick self ones out as well?
Yes, of course, putting it, yeah, you could hear the difference in audio on that one, and that's always an issue. If you want to make them good, get yourself a mic and hook that up to your phone when you do it, so that right away you're going to stand out, and people aren't going to really know why. It's just going to feel better. And really, that's the idea in my business, is to hide in plain sight, to have people trust you and like you and believe in you and think your taste is good, and that you're solid, and all because of certain things that you do. If you light it right, you frame it right, you get the sound right, all of those things work. One thing you can do in addition, but you got to pay something for it, but it's not terribly expensive, is have your logo, your firm's logo, animated. And with a very simple editing system, probably with iMovie or one of those, you can edit the logo sequence on the beginning and the end, and it will immediately up your game. You'll look way more professional, and everybody gets that when you're doing something topical, you grabbed the phone and you did it. But if it's put into the context of something where it looks pretty good and sounds good, even in that context, that's going to create more and more trust with you.
And so we had a couple of more questions. I think one might be for me and then one for you. Someone asked about, if we're going to continue Zoom, it's like obvious that I'm working in a home office, that Richard is. Is that problematic? No. And as Richard stated earlier, he doesn't like the concept of the green screen with the fake images in the back. It kind of makes your head, weird sometimes, and the hair weird. He's not a fan of it. I'm not as opposed as he is, but this is his thing. So we need to listen to what Richard's saying. And I think if you light yourself correctly and put yourself to the side and your head towards the top, I think it really can make a big difference. And yes, I think this is going to go on for a long time. And I think we will always have these Zoom meetings. So it's worth investing in lighting and maybe a microphone, which leads me to another question for you, Richard. Someone asked, they can hear us really well, but sometimes people feel that they have to have headsets and that microphone hanging down. I always find that distracting. I'm wondering what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think unless it's like anything else that takes away from people focusing on you. You don't want them looking at the cans on your head. There was one case actually lately where the guy has a big, he does some voiceover work and he's got a big microphone, and he said, "Oh, I got to get that out of frame." I said, "No, you don't. The fact that you're in a studio at home is going to draw the right kind of attention. People are going to be interested in you because of that. But you got to be very careful with that. You just anything, a logo on a shirt, anything, stripes and things that are busy, all of that stuff can distract from people paying attention to you, and that's what you want them to do.
I've also noticed a propensity, and I am guilty of this too. If I'm in a Zoom meeting where there's like 20 or 30 people and my face is this big, sometimes I don't put on makeup, and then I just put on my glasses. And I feel like, I can get away with that. But when you're like in this situation, you really need to be thinking about the hair, the makeup, to sort of look professional.
You got to treat it seriously, Mary. And it's like I treated this, as like I would treat any kind of show. We rehearsed stuff. We rehearsed, and it's a good thing we did, because we would have had a lot of problems with screen share and so on. And it was, I think that you need to take all of those things seriously. It is the trust is built on little tiny steps, and if you miss one, you trip. And again, they won't know why they tripped, but the step's not there, and there's something missing. There's something not right. We all know that, and so my world is knowing all of those things, is recognizing all of those things and getting them out of the way, dealing with them effectively. So certainly one thing that all of you can do is make sure you take it all seriously. That doesn't mean you have to wear a tie like I'm wearing. That's important for me. I think it was important. It's important for the respect I feel for all of you and you allowing me to be here and so on. It's important for me as an artist to show my professional side. All of those things are important. If you're somebody who has no need to show your professional side, then something more relaxed may be better for you. It's filling in the thing that doesn't walk on stage with you. And if you're able to do that in the way you look and the things you say, and that's part of what I do in writing the scripts, that's high level work. That's network work. That's feature film work.
I think also one of the things that I've been noticing at Zoom is when you're in a meeting and there are a group of people, to be looking to see if the person's lit right, or if they're backlit, they have a light behind their head, there's shadow on their face, or the room is just dark, or they need a better microphone. And somebody asked this question, is like, do I have to do that? And I think the answer is, ask one of your colleagues on the call afterwards, like, how was my audio? How did I look? I mean, you can see yourself and you see how you look, but it'd be interesting getting the perception of other people. And those pictures that people will take with 30 people on the screen, the Partridge Family situation, and post that on LinkedIn, that's again, a rare situation. Mostly you want to be posting about some kind of content. And I love the idea of, if you just want to get a quick home video out and you follow Richard's rules, it can be, a lot of bang. And then the professional videos for those special things, like for your website or for big things that need explanation. So yes. There are handouts. I had mentioned the 3 I have, and in the chat, they put the link to get those handouts if you want them. I think you can copy and paste that link. And then I think Richard has a handout he's going to send to the bar, which they will forward, I believe.
And I just got a question here on a recommendation on where or how to post videos to the website. My feeling has always been the most effective way to post a video on the website is to use a banner. It says, click here for video, which then clicks to the URL, and that your website person can do that for you. That way it doesn't take up a lot of room on the page at all. And when it comes up, it comes on an overlay, so it's bigger on the screen, which makes it better and makes a better connection. And then when people are done and they click off it, it goes away and you're back on the page and you can continue reading. When you put a player on the page, it just sits and takes up room, and the still frame is distracting. There's a lot of reasons that I would say avoid that. I also have one here that says any ring light or microphone for your iPhone, which you recommend. I'm not a tech guy, but I'm happy to find out what my guys recommend and be able to send it out to you. I think any ring light, the ring lights I think are pretty standard. The microphone that we use is a Sennheiser, but that's $700. So you may not want to use it. It's been the same mic it's been used for 30 years, but it's an RF mic and you don't really need to have that for this. I'm sure there's some very good mics that you can hook up to your iPhone or your Droid and get really good quality. And by the way, in terms of, Mary was talking about making sure things are right. Any of you, as part of this, I'm happy to have you contact me to Zoom with you and spend a few minutes getting your framing right and your lighting right for you. It's fun for me, and obviously no charge. It's fun.
That's great. That's great. I don't see any more questions. If there are any, we're happy to answer them. And my email address will be in the materials. If you have a question, you're welcome to send it to me, and Richard's will be in his materials as well. So we're happy to help you beyond just this short time together. And they did record this, and they just reposted the link to get the program materials in the chat. So you can just copy that and paste it, and then you'll have access to it.
Yep. Don't hesitate to, again, really, truly, don't hesitate to contact me to take a look at your Zoom frame. It may be perfect. Or there may be just a little something I can help you with, and I'm happy to do it.
Okay. And thank you for the few thank yous that we got for the program. And I hope you all have a great evening.
Thank you, guys. You were wonderful, outstanding. Happy to have had your services.